Hi viewers, welcome back. My name is Toyosi Phillips. Joining us all the way from Lagos is Mr. Olanrewaju Suraju. He's the chairman of the Civil Society Network Against Corruption, and we're going to be talking about EFCC, corruption, and the future of Nigeria. Welcome to the show, Mr. Olanrewaju.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So, let's start with Buhari's recent declaration about going after funds that were stolen. What do you think about that?
Well, of course, that is the expectation of, I can tell you, 99% of Nigerians, that, the infractions of the past will have to be redressed. So this is the number one thing, and that Nigerians are expecting for obvious reasons, and also not only for Nigerians, including for himself, for this government, for the obvious reasons of the fact that where you don't even retrieve those money and you allow it to continue in circulation in the hands of those who were actually voted out of office, you run a major risk of using the money, of these guys using the money to sponsor some kind of rebellion and also frustrate the government. And also is the second obvious reason that the country is in a financial mess, and there's no going to be manna coming from heaven except where you can maximize the little that is available. And a large chunk of that is actually hiding in the hands of many of these characters who just left office.
Right, okay, but do you think he's actually able to get back these funds, seeing that some of the people who, well, everybody feels should be chased or should be, what's the word now, should be questioned, are part of his party members? So do you think he's able to actually get this done?
I mean, the truth that needs to be told to both the parties is the fact they're keeping that you can see the substantial difference between the party that just left office and the one that is just assuming quite just a few of individuals, Buhari himself being one of them. So the majority of other guys are still part of the former system that we Nigerians abhor and then just sent out of power. But the key thing is that with the fight against corruption, one thing that was missing before now was the political will. Where you have the public will and also the organizational will in many of the anti-corruption institutions, that wins in the absence of the political will. And what you then have is the complete erosion of both organizational and public will. Now, once the political will is provided, inevitably you will have no justification for not going after them. And since he had clearly stated that he belongs to everybody and actually does not belong to anyone, so Nigerians will really look forward to the practical reality and implementation or even execution of that without fear or favor or even the contradiction of such a statement. And it will be the key success with which this government would be assessed at the end of the regime, on how far it's gone in terms of correcting the wrongs that have afflicted this country in the past.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about EFCC. What can you say about some of their most recent arrests after Buhari's winning?
Yeah, in fairness to EFCC, it has actually remained, of all the anti-corruption institutions and establishments in the country, it actually remains the one with the few or a little modicum of respect within the system and also credibility within the country, where you would see a couple of others. Say, for instance, the ICPC, which preceded even the EFCC, became more like an orientation company, organization, where all you do is meeting with governors who are actually supposed to be under investigation, and all you see is the chairman of the ICPC having orientation programs with governors and all the rest of that. Yeah, take, for instance, the Code of Conduct Tribunal. I mean, this is also a tribunal where the chairman of a three-man panel was being accused of even corruption, and the other members of the panel refused to join in sitting over the tribunal. So, I mean, you can see the level of the rottenness, from the edge, and what exactly would you expect from such an institution. The police is also not free of all these situations as well. I mean, the police is even worse in terms of having corruption allegation and cases. Now, coming down to EFCC, it still happens to be about the only one where you can still have some measure of trust and also reliability. People would then take even civil cases or cases that are meant to be for the police to the EFCC because they still have a measure of also trust exactly in EFCC to redress such violation than even going to the police. So it clearly shows that it has some measure of organizational will within itself. The public will, I can say, it is neither here nor there. There are quite a number of people that are also frustrated with the situation of the fight against corruption in the country. So they kind of also lump all of them together, including the EFCC. So they really don't give it a benefit of the doubt. And there's also the lack of also clear understanding of how these things work. Once you don't have that political will from the political leadership of the system or the country, there's no way, and I can tell you there's no way you can have a functional anti-corruption agency or institution. And that was what happened in the last regime. Even when we had Obasanjo's system, it was a bit also still possible because there was that political will on the part of Obasanjo to try and either for intrinsic reasons or for personal benefit or for vendetta to allow the anti-corruption institutions to do some work. So then they were able to work. And even at that time, the most significant achievements were attributable to the EFCC. So now, with the clear indication from Buhari that, it's probably not going to encourage many of those with anti-corruption charges or corruption charges or cases be part of the system. Quite a number of them are already running back to the judiciary, and the Nigerian judiciary, I should say judicial system, which includes both the police and the judges, are also worse in terms of engaging and encouraging corruption and corrupt practices, than even the anti-corruption institutions. So quite a number of them are running to the courts to go and also get some willing judges to quash their cases that were pending in some very ridiculous manner. And I'll take, for instance, the case of Bukola Saraki, who is the current Senate president, with the charges which he had with the special fraud unit of the police, and the same thing goes to King Silva. I mean, these are in anticipation of their possible consideration for either ministerial appointments or even the Senate presidency that Bukola Saraki just extended to. So with a supported EFCC, with a clear political will on the part of the president most especially, we're likely to have that reinvigoration of an institution that can then also have the opportunity to display its organizational will to discharge its mandate, and then the public will can also be reenacted.
Right. So from what you're saying, what I'm gathering from what you're saying is that there was no political will during the most recent regime before Buhari.
No, there was nothing like no, there was nothing like it. Rather than having a political will to fight corruption, what you had was the political will to encourage and entrench corruption. So it's difficult to have it,
Okay, so there are corruption accusations now against Governor Akpabio. In fact, running into multi-billions of naira. What do you have to say about that?
No, I mean, if you look at the resources, that goes into states like Bayelsa and Akwa Ibom, and then the development, the state of development in in those states, there's no way you would not conclude that these administrators, when they were in office, were actually helping them the state's resources. And there was the avalanche of also petitions, allegations, and accusations and attacks. Beyond the fact that they enjoyed immunity in the period, they also had, because they had the presidential and the also federal might to ward off every investigating them. They had this protection up until now that would not really allow for investigation of atrocities that were committed in office. But I am not surprised, because now, either you like it or not, people are going to come up with several watertight allegations and petitions against these guys. You know, there are quite a number of people who either their conscience would not allow them to rest, knowing the level of atrocities that were committed, or some of them that were shortchanged in the sharing of the news, who probably could not complain before now because they were not sure of what would be the consequential effect of that on them. And now also some of them who actually are embittered about what the level of poverty still pervades in those states.
Yeah.
You would have quite a number of petitions springing up now. So you can be sure that many of the anti-corruption institutions will have a whole lot of work to do. Under this dispensation. So I am not in any way in doubt that quite a number of them, and that is why you can see quite a huge percentage of them running now to the National Assembly, especially the Senate, where they can do a strict decor and then try to see how they can muzzle their way
out of
the
accusations.
The flashlights, and precisely.
Yeah, so talking about the National Assembly, there was an uproar last week over the dressing allowance. Is there any other part of the budget that bothers you right now?
No, all of it. It's not just a part. The whole of it. It is madness. It is saddening. And we just actually wrote a petition to the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. How can you have a parliament where the young people being paid wardrobe allowance? For as parliamentarians, they are paid hardship allowance. And you ask yourself, what manner of hardship do they go through? Isn't it crazy? These guys get recess allowance. So how do you go on recess to probably go and have time with your family? Or you go on holiday, or then you get allowance for that. You know, and they get all manners of the whole thing borders on nothing other than corruption. And the other thing that they also, beyond these allowances, and this I can also tell you, is that those allowances they get are even insignificant compared to what they get under their committees. And that is why you see them perpetually having public hearings and investigations, because they allocate, and this is completely outside their mandate. It is not within the mandate of the National Assembly to investigate matters. No, it's not. They have oversight functions. They have lawmaking powers, but not in any way. Because if you investigate, what do? You don't have the power to even execute anything. And beyond also that is where you have them collecting what they call constituency allowances. You know, these constituency allowances is not only about operating a constituency office, but also about implementing projects in your constituency. And once you have that line that separates the parliament, which is the legislative arm, from the executive, being blurred by these elements, then there can't be any form of transparency, accountability, or even oversight responsibility. So when you see them saying we want to investigate, the only thing they do at that time is to get money allocated for such purposes from the budget of the parliament, and the ministries or departments or agencies that are to be investigated are also twisted to even release some money to the parliament. So it's been a kind of fraudulent manner of managing the resource.
Yeah.
And then you would be surprised. Now, they had a budget of about 120 billion
Yeah.
for just 469 individuals. And you want to ask them to do what?
Yeah.
What
is even sorry to cut you short, but what is even surprising is that there has been a drop in the nation's revenue, considering that crude oil prices have slumped in the international market. Where do they plan to get these funds from?
Oh no, they don't care. It is not looking for where they will get the money from. Is not even the nature of the problem. I think what should bother us is what is the percentage of the revenue that you are allocating to yourself. So if you have already allocated 120 billion to yourself, this is more than the budget of saying, for instance, about 15 states, or about 10 states across the country. Some of these states have a budget of, say, about 10 billion or thereabouts. And then it means you're spending money that were meant to have gone to, say, 10 million, 20 million people, also being spent on just 469 people. Who don't even have any means of generating in any way, of even improving on the development. I mean, look at the ridiculous passage of bill that was also undertaken by the 7th Assembly, where they passed about 46 bills in 10 minutes. I mean, isn't it the highest madness that you can expect from any responsible individual? And many of these characters are also back in the assembly. So it is actually a major problem.
Yeah.
But like you said, having a budget of 120 billion is to start asking the question which Nigerians are actually asking now, and that is the fundamental question. That it is not just going to be about allocation again. It is all just about to do what. So the Revenue Mobilization and Allocation Fiscal Commission need to review significantly downwards the allocations or allowances that were already fixed for the public office holders. And it is not just about saying we want to cut by 50%. No, we don't need your ridiculous 50%. It is to go in conformity with what operates at international standards. Nigeria cannot have a parliamentarian that is the highest stage in the world. It's not possible. Yeah. No, it's not possible.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for joining us today. But before you leave, what is the one thing, what advice would you give President Buhari now? What should be his first step, really?
Yeah, I think he's already going in the right direction. The first step is to retrieve all those free monies that are in the system. Any failure to do that, these characters would always frustrate and sabotage every other thing that is done in the public interest.
Yeah, my question actually is, how should he go about that if you were to advise him?
Oh, it is to set the anti-corruption institutions to start doing their job. It's as simple as that. No, it's to get the anti-corruption institutions to do their jobs by looking at the books. I understand somebody who probably was accused of stealing about 4.5 billion naira, $3 billion, was already offering to return 1.4 billion naira. Wow. I mean, how do you reconcile that?
Wow.
That's beyond the fact that he probably was have invested the money and then also got some interest on that. Is that you can't change the country by returning what you think or consider is convenient for you. No. They must return to the full measure of what was stolen.
Yeah,
and the anti-corruption institution, because it is not just only about retrieving, they have the capacity to go and employ the best lawyers that you have in town, and they have the tactics of also frustrating the prosecution process. And then they also have the reach to some of these corrupt judges that are still sitting on the bench.
Yes.
So it's important that they allow such an holistic work that even the anti-corruption institutions will beam the flashlight on judges and then those that are also found to be in possession of undeserving amount of money and property are also brought to book. Because we need to pick on a better equality topic.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Do you believe Nigeria can ever be corruption-free?
Oh, yeah, I have that strong belief because it's just about less than about 5% of Nigerians are involved today. So if the instruments of correction, all the institutions of government that are responsible for imposing sanctions are allowed to do the work, you would be surprised that nothing less than 50% of Nigerians will be more than willing not only to assist the system, but to also volunteer information. And that is what you guys, our Sahara Reporter, also thrives on. Nigerians are willing to give you information that they would to conventional media because they don't actually trust their level of independence, sincerity, and also commitment. But once they find a reliable and credible platform, they would be more than willing to give troops and then also volunteer information.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's
and
my pleasure.
That was Mr. Olanrewaju Suraju, the chairman for the Civil Society Network Against Corruption, talking to us all the way from Lagos, Nigeria. Stick around. We'll be back after this break.